never understand the damage you've done to someone until the same is done to you. On this note, I welcome you to another edition of Women's World on OSRC Television. I am Jane Aino. Today on the program, we are going to be taking a look at saving our children from pedophiles. Pedophiles, we all know, are elderly men, very aged men who abuse very young children in our society. And pedophiles in our society has really eaten up more than we can ever imagine. It is so unfortunate to imagine that we are quick to guard our children from fire, stoves, and we tell them and teach them how to save themselves from accident, that is, looking sideways, the left and the right. But we are not usually very conversant with the kids when it comes to taking care of their body and protecting themselves against abuse of all sorts. You want to know the most scary thing is that some of these perpetrators are usually people who have legal access to them. I mean, their fathers, uncles, drivers, niece, cousins, and lots more. So how then can we tell or guide our children against people who are very close relatives? Today on the program, I have Mrs. Oluwatoyin Adegbero to discuss this. Welcome on the program, madam.
Good day, thank you. And how are you today?
I'm very well. As a teacher, you know, this epidemic, this pedophile issue has really become an epidemic. With recent news, or day in, day night, how we hear about children who are abused. The recent one about a girl, Ochana, who was raped for about 3 years by a guardian, and someone who is supposed to be like a father to her, and the son of the man for 3 years, and she eventually lost her life. A lot of people believe that this is the people who are involved, who are pedophiles, it's a psychiatric ailment. Should they be accepted as sane people or be seen around us?
As sane people?
Yes.
How sane do you think a man will be that will be interested in a child who is barely old enough to even know what sex is? How sane do you think a man who sees the image of a sexual partner in a girl who he ought to treat like a child, pamper like a child, how sane do you think that sort of man is? To me, there are people who ought to be kept away behind the bars for life. It's a psychiatric treatment. It's something, if the person who actually has it admits he has a problem. You know, it's one thing to have a problem.
Yes, it's one thing to
admit. It's
admit
another
that,
thing to admit that you have this problem and be ready to
find
go
solution
out and seek help in solving this problem you have. If you have this problem and you know you have this problem, and you go all out to actually seek for solution, that's a different thing. He could be treated. But once you don't even know that this is a problem, you see it as a normal way of life, then there the bigger problem is. Such a person ought to be kept permanently away. Because once it gets hold of a child, the trauma that child goes through lasts a whole lifetime, and she never gets over it. There is no way the child ever remains the same. So to me, they ought to be kept totally and permanently away.
All right, then, also, do you think there's any form of rehabilitation centers that is set aside for such people in this category?
I haven't actually come across one. You know, Nigeria is still a place, like we say, a lot of things are even still not recognized. Like I said now, that it's one thing to know you have a problem. is another thing to admit it. Some even see it as
No.
a normal way of life, that the younger, the better. The younger, the fresher, the sweeter. So they don't even see such an act as something unbecoming, as something wrong. So that's why I haven't even heard that, okay, maybe we have a department in a hospital
Exactly, where
that
people
exactly
that are being treated.
are actually treated. But I know that they could access help with psychiatrists.
In a way, I'm trying to think, or do you think, or don't you think that it's actually because people who fall in this category, it will amaze you to know that 10% of perpetrators are strangers, while we have about 80 or thereabouts who are close
Fathers.
relatives. Okay, so I feel and I think that because the people who are involved in this are close relatives, that is why it looks like no one is doing anything about it if it's coming from a close relative. What's your thought
You know,
on this?
the problem we have in this country is a particular attitude. Two things on the side of the parents.
Okay.
A parent whose child was raped would not want the child stigmatized and would rather keep the news
To him, to themselves.
away from the press, so that tomorrow people will not point to that child,
Fingers. Okay.
as, oh, that's the girl who was raped some time ago.
It's not someone you should go near.
It's not someone you should go near.
Possibly some of them are trying to protect the future of the child. Because we
But
have
then
this-
there's this thing that the parents seem to forget, or they don't seem to know, that the trauma that child is living with is actually worse than
trying to protect.
exactly, because once you know that as a child, okay, you're growing up, you were molested, sexually harassed, raped, and nothing is done to it, somehow that feeling lives with you. It doesn't die. You keep having, some even grow up, having a kind of hatred
for
life,
yeah, for people,
for men,
yeah,
frigid in bed when they eventually get married.
yeah. So it's inflicting them some psychological
effect. But then there is this joy with you, in you, when you see that okay, this person who actually did this
is brought to justice.
So it's an inner joy that
at
you
least
didn't
I went
suffer.
through this pain,
Exactly.
and then I didn't go
suffer
through
it alone.
No.
I didn't suffer it just like that. The guy got justice
Yeah.
for what he did. So that's on the side of the parents. And then the child. The child, I will still even link that to the parents, so to say.
Okay.
When the child is molested, harassed, raped, and the person who is involved kind of tells the child that you must not tell. If you tell, one thing or the other will happen to you. The child gets scared, clams up, withdrawn into himself, into herself. Of course, we also have males too who are sexually harassed too. It's not just the girl child.
Somehow,
it also
I
happens to
want
the
to
male.
have a feeling that sometimes it's not about telling the child not to tell. It comes from someone who is very close. Some children even see it as normal, since it's coming from someone who accepts that pain they go through while it's going on.
Most children do not see it as something that is normal. And because it will surprise you that in almost all situations, 98% of times, because the man knows that, okay, this is a little girl who will go out to say, so thing, maybe when the mother comes, happened to me. or could even tell friends, or could tell relatives who come visiting. And he knows that it is wrong. They mustn't hear. He will scare that child and tell the child not to talk. So if you see the child not talking or not telling, it is because she has been warned
not to tell,
not to do so. And that is why I say I'll still hint this on parents. Somehow there should be a closeness between the parents
and
the child. When there's a kind of closeness, a kind of intimacy, emotional attachment, your child should be able to be free with you to tell you anything. As a mother or a parent, so to say, even a father, you should know your children well enough to know if the child is going through something strange. If something strange has happened to your child, you should be able to tell.
You should be observant enough.
You should be observant enough to know.
All right, so sometimes when this happens, the carelessness falls in the hands of the mother to speak.
More.
All right, so what do we do? How do we sensitize mothers especially to ensure that they take cognizance of this menace?
Now, as a mother,
because your
child is an ordinary boisterous
of course
one.
Maybe when they're older, that is when some mothers are not comfortable to talk to their children about sex or the body. They don't really talk about it until maybe much older, or when it's too late, or when situations like this
and
arise.
we should learn. That's the thing. Right now I think the school is beginning to recognize us, and even as from the primary school level now, you have sex education being taught in schools now. Right from the primary school level, the school curriculum has it.
Okay, so how are they taking this? Is it an everyday? Because even in schools, some teachers still avoid the topic, and so how much
but you must teach it.
Hammer it?
You must teach it. Is it the curriculum? The curriculum has it maybe 3 times a week.
That's very good.
That you must talk about sex education. There are topics that must be discussed. Whether you like it or not, you must teach it.
In the primary school, they have it?
Right from the primary school and right through the junior secondary school classes. It must be taught. So the child knows, a little child knows that, an uncle just does not come and put her on his laps. Why? She knows that even her dad, there should be some measure of closeness.
Yeah.
When it gets to a point, you don't go touching her in some private places. She knows what privacy means. She knows the places where she shouldn't be touched by a male. She knows that she has a right to her privacy in her room. She knows that a man shouldn't come close to her at some particular times.
Do you think in all cases most of these children know?
You'll be surprised at what these children know. And of course, except if the teacher isn't doing justice to what he or she is meant to teach. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? Except if the teacher isn't doing justice.
We have teachers,
a lot of times
we even have teachers who abuse their students.
Unfortunately, we do.
Okay, so
it's quite sad, but unfortunately, we do. A lot of times, we see this. There's a story, a recent one, in Okitopupa right now.
Okay, I think I heard about it.
A school teacher abusing a little child. To me, the teacher is sick. A child of about 7 or 8 thereabouts.
7. Because
ordinarily, I don't know what should be sexually attractive in a girl of 7 who doesn't even have the curves to attract a man. Such a man is basically sick. So even if he is not a teacher, it is still something he will do. His is a medical condition. And then it will surprise you. I honestly don't want to I am not someone who is given to think in that direction. But because we hear people saying it all over the place, that in some situations you talk about rituals.
Rituals. Okay, then that brings me to this question. The security agents, even the law does not recognize rituals. Like you can just go to the and report that someone used your child for rituals and then cut some private parts, or used her or raped her because he or she wants to use her for rituals. What and some school of thought believe ritual is real, but our agencies, our security agents, and they do not accept or
The law doesn't recognize it.
Does not recognize it. What do we do
You know, I
about
just
it?
said
Because
it.
this thing is it's happening in our
We're in Black
society,
Africa.
and then we cannot shy away from our culture and and what happens in our society. Now, how do we bring this to justice?
Now, in as much as the law does not recognize, the occultic world,
Yes.
the law recognizes what rape is. You rape a child, or you rape anyone, and it is proved in the court of law, you're going to be in jail for life. It is life imprisonment. There's no two way about it.
How much effective is this in Nigeria?
That's why I said, okay, I'll give you a particular case that just happened to. I got to see a little child of 6 that was raped just 2 days ago. The mother came to me, I took it up, got Her Excellency Arabere Betty Anyanwu Akeredolu informed.
Okay.
And let me quickly say this before I continue. Let me just digress a little. Arabere Betty Anyanwu Akeredolu right now has decided that in Ondo State, the issue of rape, we may not be able to stop it, eradicate it completely, but it's definitely going to take a back seat. Because she has decided that all reported cases
Of rape, especially pedophiles,
must be taken up and prosecuted, and the perpetrator need to face the music of his action. And so when I informed her, she told me to report to the child development unit of the women affairs.
okay,
I got the child development unit involved, and they got in the police. It will surprise you now that so many people are going to meet the mother of the child and the parents, and this is putting your child into wahala. You shouldn't be looking for wahala. When you keep doing this, what do you want? What do you want to gain from doing this? They are beginning to try to work on the psyche of the parents.
exactly.
To withdraw from the case. And that
Some
is the
parents
situation.
are even as bad as
Exactly.
telling you to pay. Is this right? A very young girl was raped, and then the mother went ahead to say she wants to withdraw from. She first of all reported the case, and then as time goes on, I think the perpetrator said that he will offer her money if she doesn't mind, and she collected money from this man and withdrew
The case.
She withdrew the case. Secondly, the second question, and in conclusion, that I'll be asking you is, a lot of children are going through this trauma. Do we have any agency taking care of children who is going through this psychological trauma of being raped?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Okay, now let me quickly say that the first question you asked. Yesterday, the mother of that little girl sent, or rather, the mother of the rapist,
Okay.
came to me again with some delegation. that they had gone to meet the mother of the girl and convinced her. She said they should come meet me. I now told her that this isn't about me. This is about the society. If we close our eyes, it's not even about the mother of the girl any longer.
Exactly.
That this,
because what happens to the right of the child?
It's not about the mother of the child. She can decide that she wants to withdraw. This is about the state. That when the boy raped this girl, covering her mouth and her nose with his hand and a piece of cloth, had the girl suffocated and died,
would they be
coming here to negotiate? That this is not about, the girl I'm talking about is just 5 years old. Just 5, a girl.
But seriously,
of 5.
This is inhuman.
A girl of 5. And I now told them that, see this little girl, don't know the meaning of being raped. Yes, she went through pains. I actually saw the blood of, the hymen that was broken. That at this age, she doesn't know what it means to lose her virginity. But when she grows,
she'll be looking for it. How come?
That she will then know the value of what she has lost. That myself as a person, and I'm sure Her Excellency Betty Anyanwu Akeredolu will not allow this to just go. That her parents, you may have somehow convinced them, but this is not about the parents now. It's about the child, the rights of the child. And once this boy is let off the hook, because the boy actually confessed to doing that the second time. That's the second time he would be raping the girl. If he's let off the hook, he will continue to do it. He will continue to do it.
And it will become a part of him.
It's already becoming a part of him. This is the second one. And of course, your second question, yes. I told you just now that there is a unit, the Child Development Unit of the Ministry of Women Affairs. It is their duty to take care of a traumatized, a traumatized child in this condition.
How well do the society know about this? How well are they know? Are they sure? Do they know that there's a session like this in the ministry?
I think there may not be so much awareness now, but now we're creating it. I've told you that is a new thing now. We're going fully into it. By next year, you'll hear so much noise and about it. The rights of a child must be protected.
Mrs. Oluwatoyin Adegbenro, a teacher and a social analyst, has been my guest in the studio today, and we did justice to this topic, saving our children from pedophiles. You've heard it all. Let's live a life of ordinary people, and the extraordinary things will happen to us. I started by saying that you do not know the damage you've done to someone until the same is done to you. Right? So we should do the right thing at all times. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
You're welcome.
That's the size of the program, everyone. Thank you so much for being part of it. On behalf of my producer, Mrs. Oluwabumi Oluwateru, let's do this again, same time, same station, for another beautiful edition of Women's World. Until then, be good, don't be a fool, and God bless, no less. My name is Jane Aino, and it's bye for now.